guys, it's Dr. Hayes, and this is the video for chapter 1 of They Say, I Say, and also talking about your informative essay and presentation assignment and kind of giving you some instructions about that. So in this video, I'm going to go through a few things from this chapter that you were assigned to read, and then I'm going to kind of make sure you have all the details that you need for the informative essay and presentation assignment. They've changed a little bit from what's in the syllabus. I'm going to update the syllabus to reflect the changes, but with this hybrid online semester, I'm going to change a few of the requirements. I need to change a little bit of the wording, so I'll let you know what that is in a little bit. So you've read so far the introduction of They Say, I Say. You've read a couple of articles from it. You have one to read this week, the 2 years are better than 4, and that's what your reading response is for. You had that to read for last week. So you've read a couple of the articles out of here and some of the readings in the introduction, but this is the official first chapter. So it goes into more detail about the concepts we've been talking about with the introduction, where you have to establish a they. You have to be entering into a conversation. An academic essay it's a response. So a lot of times you might have had to write an essay before. Surely lots of times you've had to write an essay before, but I want you to start getting into the habit of, if you're given a scholarly or an academic essay to write, you need to be thinking of it in the terms that it is a response to something that someone else or some other group of people have said or have implied, or the assumption is that that's a certain way of thinking that you want to like strengthen or contradict. So I want to go through some of the things from the chapter, just to kind of guide you through what I mean by that. So the chapter is They Say, starting with what others are saying. And so it starts with the story of a person who's presenting a paper at a conference and is going on in defense of this one a scholar's works, and talking about how defending all of her findings and defending all of her studies and being very adamant in support of this scholar. And at the end of the presentation, so some people from the audience ask questions like, okay, why did you feel the need to defend her? Like, yeah, we agree with you. Like, she's awesome. Where is this coming from? And he's like, oh, well, this person and this person and this person and this person all have said that, they have challenged her findings and have criticized her, so I felt the need to defend her and to strengthen support for her. And they were like, oh, well, you probably should have started with that. We had no idea that there were these attacks happening. So the presenter's presentation lacked a point. The audience didn't understand the reason why he felt the need to make this defense on this scholar's behalf. So that he did a bad job of establishing a point in a conversation that he's replying to. He assumed it was understood, but you can't do that. You have to introduce the point of the conversation, the bigger conversation that you're responding to. So that's why they say the reason why you establish something that they have said at the outset of your essay is because it gives your essay a point. It gives it a reason to exist. As a student, you might think, the reason my essay exists is because my teacher told me to write it. I get that. I get that that's what you're thinking. Like, I'm writing an essay because I was assigned to write an essay. I don't care about the larger conversation. I don't really have anything to contribute to the larger conversation. I have to write an essay to get a grade. I understand that, but humor me, since you have to write one anyway, might as well write it the proper way, which is to visualize your essay as contributing to a larger stream of essays. So they say that basically they suggest that, it says, on page 21, we suggest that you summarize what they say as soon as you can in your text and remind readers of it at strategic points as your text unfolds. So that's their suggestion. At the outset, you start off your essay with, here is a assertion being made, here is a belief that's held, here is a challenge that's been put forth in this conversation, and I would like to respond to it in this way. And that's your thesis statement, right? Your thesis statement is, you're making a claim, you're stating a position, you are announcing a topic, but what they suggest is that the way to frame that topic so that it doesn't just exist in a vacuum without any other outside influence is that you write your thesis statement and you construct your thesis statement as a response to something that they has said. And so that gives your essay a point and makes it actually make sense, and it gives it a reason for existing. So they understand that, starting off with a detailed list of this study and then this study and then there was this study, but then this study came along. That's boring. That's not effectual either, right? So no one's asking you to list out every single person who's ever written about this in list form, because that's a boring way to start an essay. But instead, what they say is, we suggest then that as soon as possible, you state your own position and the one it's responding to together, and that you think of the two as a unit. That's what I'm saying. Your thesis statement is, some people think this, but I think this. Or some people think this, and they are right because. And that's your thesis statement, right? And so to add, as an adding to that, further down that page, they say, although we agree that you shouldn't keep readers in suspense too long about your central argument, your thesis, we also believe that you need to present that argument as part of some larger conversation. So, your thesis does need to be at the beginning of the paper, but the thesis is not delayed so that you can describe this whole conversation. Your thesis statement is tied in as part of presenting who they is. And so when you look at the templates in the chapter, this will make a little bit more sense. So they say, if you want to initially open your essay with something that's not a they, that's perfectly fine. Like they did. They opened their chapter with a story, like an anecdote. This guy who's presenting at a conference, right? And so, but the anecdote led into discussing their they, the presentation of their thesis. You could open with a quotation, like a quotation by somebody famous or some scholar or something that illustrates what your thesis is going to be. You can open with some kind of a surprising statistic or little known trivia or fact that is kind of shocking, but it sort of reveals something about the thesis you're about to illustrate. So your very initial opening of your essay can be something attention-getting, should be something attention-getting, some story or quotation or fact or statistic, something like that. And then you can go into the template. So after that, starting on page 23, you can kind of see here, they start listing different kinds of templates for different ways to introduce a they. I'm not going to go through and read all of these templates to you, but you definitely should. Any time in this book where there are templates provided, you need to maybe put a little tab on those pages or bookmark those pages, because those are going to be, that's your word bank for when you're writing essays later on. You can come back to these and pick ones that work the best for the essay you're writing. Even after this class, some of you might have to turn this book back in, or maybe you rented it or you sell it back. If it were me and I knew I had this resource of this basically word bank of pre-written sentences for essays, I would copy off these pages. You know, go to the library in the photocopier, or in one of the classroom buildings in the photocopier, and photocopy and make a little booklet for yourself. Or take pictures with your phone if you're a modern type of person. But make a booklet, or do a PDF. You know, scan them into a PDF for yourself, and have just like keep it as a little word bank of pre-written stock essay sentences that you can use later. So every chapter has some for you. So this one, the templates in this chapter are for introducing into the beginning of the essay, whatever it is that they say that you're responding to, it's templates for introducing that in. So some examples they have are: a number of sociologists have recently suggested that blank, and they fill it in for you. That X's work, X is like just a fill-in name for a person. That, my hair's doing somewhere. That X's work has several fundamental problems. So that would be a way you could finish that. Another tip: it has become common today to dismiss XYZ. In their recent work, Y and Z have offered harsh critiques of blank for blank, right? So it's just these stock sentences that help you sort of get your essay off the ground as far as the they. So then they go into a little bit more detail. So there's some templates for introducing standard views. So this is, you want to introduce a view that has just sort of become the commonly accepted way to think of something. There's not any specific person who said it or specific group that can be attributed to, but it is just so commonly assumed that it's just the conventional way of thinking about something. Americans have always believed that blank. Conventional wisdom has it that blank. Common sense seems to dictate that. And so that's a way that you can introduce the they into your essay. It doesn't have to be a specific scholar or source or group that has said certain things. And here they have groups: Americans, and one of them, many people assume that, you know. So you can just kind of remind the reader of a commonly held assumption that you are now going to challenge in your essay. Another category of templates is templates for, if you want the they say that starts your essay to be actually something you've said, you can be your they. That's confusing, and I apologize to my English as a second language students, but all of these pronouns are, I realize that it's confusing. But if your paper needs a they, a someone to reply to, that can be yourself. So the examples are: I've always believed that blank, or when I was a child I used to think that blank. Although I should know better by now, I cannot help thinking that. That's another one. At the same time that I believe blank, I also believe blank. So this is one where, you know, it's a little bit more of a personal style of an essay. This does not lend itself to every topic that you have to write about, or every assignment you're going to be given. Some assignments are a little bit more appropriate to have your personal experience and beliefs opening up the essay. In an English class, or maybe even a history, some of the humanities classes, that's a little bit more accepted than in, say, sciences and things like that. So you'd have to use your judgment. They have templates for assuming something is implied or assumed, for introducing something implied or assumed. Although X does not say so directly, she apparently assumes that blank, and you introduce a paraphrase of someone's opinion. While they rarely admit as much, blank often take for granted that blank, right? Although none of them have said so directly, my teachers have often given me the impression that blank. So there's nobody specific you're quoting, there's nobody specific you're citing in a lot of these, or no specific directly quoted passage, but more of just a paraphrase of a belief or an assumption that someone or some group seems to be putting forth based on your interactions with them. You also have, the last group you have is the templates for introducing an ongoing debate. So this might be really useful. These are it starts at the bottom of page 25 and goes over to 26 and 27. These would be really useful for specifically for you in this class, for the persuasive argument essay that you have to write at the end of the semester, where you have to identify an issue about which there's disagreement and you have to pick a side, right, and defend that side. Well, before you start defending your side, you're going to need to summarize all the perspectives at the beginning of the essay. You're going to have to lay it all out for us. This is the issue. This is what these people think. This is what these people think. Here's where I land. Here's why. Right? So there's some templates for that. And basically it even says, I've even started, because it's so good. It's just a great way to start an analysis essay like that. Page 26. In discussions of X, your topic. In discussions of topic, one controversial issue has been blank. On the one hand, blank argues that blank. So that's one side. On the other hand, blank contends that blank. So that's the other side's view. Others even maintain blank. So this is a sentence that outlines 3 different perspectives. You could take out the others even maintain if there's not a third perspective. And then you end with my own view is blank. And that's where your thesis statement is paired. It's your view and your claim and the side the side that you're going to support and defend, but it's paired together with the other sides as well. In the discussion of this topic, a major contentious issue is blank. Some people think this, others think this, and you summarize it. Here's kind of where I fall, and you say, and then you're going to defend that position the rest of the time. So once you've established what they say in the beginning of the essay, you don't just abandon it. It's not abandon it. It's not like, well, check, that's done. I established a they. No, you have to keep that they in view the rest of the whole essay, and you'll probably have to return back to it, because it's you got to keep reminding the reader which claims that have been made, that you've identified, that you're responding to, because your support, your points, your defense might get complicated. So to keep everybody on track, you have to periodically throughout the essay return back, as I mentioned earlier, blah blah blah, or as has been described, or as was described earlier in this essay, this has been a major issue, something like that. These things are called return sentences. That's what it discusses them on page 28 of the chapter. It's the last page of text of the chapter. It talks about the idea of these return sentences that continually snaps the reader back to the conversation that you're participating in, the claim that you're responding to. And here's an example of one that's even at the end of the essay. It says, in conclusion then, as I suggested earlier, defenders of blank can't have it both ways. The assertion that blank is contradicted by their own claim that blank. So it's an example of a template where you can remind the readers now at the end of the essay, having heard all of your points and your evidence, you can remind them what all of those points and evidence was responding to and trying to refute or support, either way. And so there's a really great quote here in the last paragraph. It says, the purpose for these return sentences, the reason why you keep the they in view for the whole essay, is because it says return sentences ensure that your text maintains a sense of mission and urgency from start to finish. So it gives, again, like I said at the beginning, it gives your essay a point. It gives it a reason to exist. You're replying to something specific. You are participating in a specific conversation. And so that will help you also stay focused when you're writing your essay, because there's something you're trying to accomplish. There's a sense of urgency, a sense of obligation, and a mission that you're on from the start to the finish of the essay. You don't have to do any of the exercises at the end of the chapter this time. I should probably check that, actually. yeah, we can look in the syllabus and see what your assignments are. I can look at that real quick. You can't see this, but I'm pulling up your syllabus and I'm looking at the assignment of like what your reading response is. So okay, yes, so your a reading response that goes along with this lecture is to do exercise number 1 in this exercise number 1 at the end of the chapter. So there's a list here of arguments that they don't have a they say. There's no they that these arguments are responding to. They just make a claim. Like the first one is, our experiments suggest that there are dangerous levels of chemical X in the Ohio groundwater. Like, okay, what made you do these experiments, right? Like, did someone say there weren't dangerous levels of chemicals in the groundwater? Did somebody complain that there were levels? You know, so it's declaring that you've done experiments on the groundwater in Ohio for some reason, but they need to establish that. So what your task is, it's more of an activity than a reading response. So your task is to look at this list of arguments that have failed to establish what their argument is in response to. They don't give us a they. So you're going to rewrite these arguments with having them respond to a they. You can use some of the templates in the chapter. So that first one, just to give you a little hint to start, the first one you might say something like, although many are operating off of the assumption that the Ohio groundwater is safe to drink, our experiment suggests that there are dangerous levels of chemical whatever in the Ohio groundwater. So you're giving them something to respond to. So that was kind of a little bit of a freebie there, that first one. You're rewriting these, you don't even have to rewrite this part, you're adding a sentence or a phrase onto the beginning of each of these arguments that provides something for it to argue against. These can be made up. Like, it doesn't have to be real. I don't know if people assume that Ohio water is good to drink. I just made that up as an example of an assumed position that people might think that this essay would be challenging. So you can completely make it up, you know. But try to. It's just more of a thought experiment, to practice. Okay, if somebody was making this claim, what reason, or what could be a situation, or what could be an assumption that they are responding to that made them feel like making this claim was necessary? What's the purpose for this this essay to exist? So just do your best with that. Try it out. Once you do it, we can kind of discuss them and give our examples when we come back together after this, in class after this, if you'd like. But just kind of do your best to take each of these claims there in this exercise 1 and give them a they that they're responding to. Okay, so that's your assignment for that. I did want to talk just a couple minutes about your informative essay and presentation. So what this is going to be, it's a 2-part assignment. And now that you've done your annotated bibliographies, where you've gathered some sources on a general, under a general subject area, now it's time to zoom in and pick a specific topic within that larger subject to write an informative, another way to think of it is maybe an explanation essay, a teaching essay. Imagine your reader is someone who has very little to no knowledge about an element of your topic, and you need to explain it to them. using research and sources and an organized essay format. So an example would be, to carry on with the examples we've used in class. Say you picked the nutrition subject as your subject, and you decided to research the body mass index like we did in class, and where I looked at that. Maybe your informative essay could be an explanation of what the body mass index is. So you would go through, like, what is it, how is it calculated, when did it first get sort of established as a measurement, as a standard, what is it used for, what factors go into it, like age and height and gender and things like that. Not really gender, but sex of the person. And so you would just basically explain using sources what the body mass index is. There's no argument being made. You're not arguing that it's inaccurate. You're not arguing that it shouldn't be used for various things. You're not defending it as like a good, viable measurement of a person's health. You're not defending it or attacking it one way or the other. You would just be explaining it to someone who maybe knows very little about it, right? That's what this first essay is. You're picking something, some specific element or item or topic from your overall subject that you've committed to for the semester, and you're explaining it. You're teaching it to the reader, informing the reader about it with a researched essay. So that's the first part of the assignment, is the essay. There's a second part, which is a presentation. So with our classes split up, I think we should have time. So what's changing a little bit is that in the when I first told you about the assignment, I said it was 5 minutes of a presentation, and it needs to have some kind of visual. Well, I'm going to limit that down, and I'm going to say, it can be 3 to 5 minutes. This will ensure that we have time for everybody to present in one day for each half of our class. So it's going to be 3 to 5 minutes. 5 minutes at the sort of the longer, but 3 to 5 minutes, and everyone will be required to do either a PowerPoint or a Google slide presentation to go with your presentation. And so the Google PowerPoint or the PowerPoint or the Google slide, the presentation will basically be a slides visual version, breakdown of the information that's in your essay. So they go together. So whatever information and points and the things you're using to teach me about your topic in the essay, you need to break those down into some phrases, into Google phrases for your slides. So the presentation, the PowerPoint or the Google slide presentation, is a companion to the essay. They go together. And so you will take us as a class, you'll take us through the PowerPoint and explain to us your topic. Teach me about the body mass index, as an example. If that were that student, spend 3 to 5 minutes giving me a crash course on what body mass index is, where it came from, who established it, what goes into it, how they measure it, what it's used for. Boom, boom, done, right? So whatever you pick, you would just take a few minutes with your slides to teach us what that is. Not super fancy, not showing videos, not getting, I also don't want you to just copy and paste huge paragraphs from your paper and put them on the slides either, because just big, huge chunks of text, that's not, just because it has a background doesn't make it a visual, right? It needs to have some sort, maybe a chart, or, maybe just key phrases in a bullet list, something breaking it down into a visual element to take us through and teach us about your topic. So anyway, it's a 2-part assignment. The essay, the requirement is only 2 pages, I think, 2-page minimum. It can be longer than that, but the minimum is 2 pages. but it's got to be 2 full pages, like all the way. I'm going to look at the syllabus one more time. All the way to the bottom of the second page, not like part way down. I'm looking at the, see if I put that, yes, 2 full, yeah. That's not going to change. The only thing that's changing is the length. I had said 5 minutes, but I think 5 minutes needs to be the max. It should be more like 3 to 5. And the visual element requirement is being more specific. Those are the 2 things that's changed. But the length of the essay is 2 full pages of text plus your works cited. So it's not a super long essay. It's more of a chance for you to practice doing a piece of writing that's not making an argument. Because I think most of us, when we come up in school, we're used to making an argument in our essays or having to be persuasive or defend a position or something like that. That's a little bit more of a natural impulse when we're writing some sort of an essay. But this is just a informative teaching essay. So two pages minimum, plus the works cited. You must make a PowerPoint or Google Slides presentation to go with it, and you will present that in class. The dates are marked in the syllabus for when your specific class meeting is presenting, and that's the date. That's when we're doing it. And everyone will go, and I've done the math, and even on the classes that have the most people, we can still get through everybody in one day, as long as people don't go over the time limit. So that's the plan for the presentations, and a little bit more about this essay assignment. So I think that's all I've got to say. Look through those templates in the chapter 1. They'll help you sort of establish the beginning of your essay. Do your best on that exercise at the end for your reading response assignment for this class, for this period, this meeting. And let me know if you have questions, or if you're confused, if you need guidance. But otherwise, I hope you guys have a good rest of your week, and I will see you later. Bye.